Hi everyone, and in today's video I'm going to take you through my Spring Boot project setup. We are going to walk through the project structure and understand how I have defined my controllers, models, entities, repositories, and my service. I'm also going to show you the use of the Spring JPA for my database persistence. And we're going to run the service, which then makes a call to the embedded H2 database and fetches the data from there. So let's get started. For this demo, I'm going to walk you through the car info service, and the purpose of this service is to provide the vehicle's manufacturer's information, like the various car makes and models. So let's start by looking at my project. So under the car info service, under my SRC main, within my package, I have defined the config folder. Now, at the moment, I'm actually not really using this config because I'm actually fetching the config using Spring properties. But I haven't removed this because in the future I might need to use some configuration. So then I can just go in and replace this with the relevant configuration. Under my controller folder, I have the car info controller class, and that's where I define all my REST API mappings. And within my entities, I am defining the classes that represent my database structure. So I have the car make, the entity name is called make, which means in the database, the table will be named as make. And then I have an ID, which is annotated by the ID annotation and generated value, which means it will automatically generate my ID. And then I'm having a couple of columns, name and country. And I have marked my name column as unique because for my car manufacturer brands, the brand name will always be unique. And in my car model entity, it just simply has an ID and a name. And within my models folder, so these are representing my car make and the car model, but these will be used as the DTU objects that get sent back to the user interface. So next up, I have my repositories folder, and within this I actually define my car make repository, and I also have a class called read-only repository. Now, when I'm thinking of my car info service, I actually think it of like a read-only store because all my car makes and models are going to be predefined and stored in the database itself. And I don't see a need of inserting or updating any make or model from the application UI. So that's why I wanted to create a read-only repository. So what I have done is I've created a new interface called read-only repository, which passes in the type and the ID, and it extends the repository. So this repository is coming from the Spring framework. And we are supporting these methods, find by ID, find all, and count. Now, if I go back to my car make repository, you will see that that interface actually extends my read-only repository, where I'm passing my type, which is the car make, and the ID that I'm using, which is long. So next up, I have my service folder. And within this folder, I have the car info service class. This is basically an interface which tells me what are the methods that I'm going to support in my service. So I have the get all car makes, get car makes count, get car make by ID, and get car models. And then I'm actually implementing this service in another class called car info service imp. This allows me to keep a clear segregation of an interface which defines what methods I need to support, and an implementation class which goes in and implements those methods. Within my service implementation, I am auto-wiring my car make repository, and then I am overriding all the methods that my interface supports. So get all car makes will create an array list for car makes, and then it will call the car make repository to fetch all the makes from the database and return the same. Similarly, car makes by ID will create a make object, and then it will fetch the car make by calling the car make repositories find by ID method. And at the moment, I'm still working on implementing this. And in the get car makes count, I'm basically just getting a count. Now, if I load my car info service application main class, which is my Spring Boot application class, you will see that I am auto wiring a couple of beans, which will then be used for dependency injection. So I have a model mapper. This is being used to convert my entity objects into the DTO objects. And I'll show this to you a bit further. And then I have another bean, which is my car info service implementation. And this is again used for dependency injection to auto wire wherever I need to use the service. To get my model mapper working, to convert my entity to DTO, I have added a new dependency called org.modelMapper, and artifact ID is model mapper. Within my controller, I have auto-wired my service as well as my model mapper. And when my makes endpoint gets called, it basically uses the service object and calls a get all car makes method. And using the stream function, I pass in the entity objects and then use the convert to DTO method to convert those entities into the DTOs and then collect that back into a list. If we have a look at the convert to DTO function, it's basically taking in the entity object and using the model mapper, it's mapping the entity into the DTO class and returning that back. Within my Spring Fox config class, I have configured my Swagger documentation. So I have created a separate video to cover this topic, and click the link above if you would like to see that. Next, I'll show you my application.properties. So the server.port and the Spring application name are related to my Spring Boot configuration. And I have added the context path so that I have a base context path defined before any of the other endpoint gets mapped. And then the couple of properties over here are related to my Spring Cloud config server. So I have covered the Spring Cloud config server in a separate video, and you can click on the link above if you would like to see that. For my Spring JPA persistence, I'm using an in-memory H2 database. So this set of configuration over here is related to the same. And over here, I have some commented out config, and I could use this if I need to connect to a separate SQL Server database. Because I'm running in my local development environment, I'm actually using a data.sql file, which I can use to load my initial set of data. Spring JPA will automatically look for this SQL file in my class path, and it will automatically run these SQL commands when it initializes. Let's now launch this and see this running in action. So I'll go to my run debug configuration, and I have set up a compound configuration which launches a bunch of my services together. And I've covered this in a separate video. So if you're interested, click on the link above to see that. Running them basically launches them in certain intervals. So it will bring up the config and discovery server first. Then after a certain time, it will bring up my car info service. And then finally, it will launch the Chrome browser window. Now you can see that my Swagger is up and running, and it's basically showing me all my controllers. And because Swagger is using the OpenAPI documentation, I have used this API docs link to import all this configuration into Insomnia. Now, if you don't know Insomnia, Insomnia is basically a REST client, which is used to call your REST services. And within my Insomnia, you can see that I have already imported all of my REST endpoints. And the way to do that is just going into the import and export function over here and using the import data from URL and providing the API docs endpoint. Now, because I have already done that, I'm not going to do that again. So I'm going to close that. And if I launch my get method get car makes, you will see that it returns a list of car makes. So this information is coming from my in-memory database, and that in-memory database gets populated from the SQL file that's available within my project. So the in-memory database is volatile, and it will basically go away as soon as I stop my application. But if I want to have a look and see what's in there in my database, I could still do that. In my config, I have defined a path for my H2 console. So I could use this path to go into that endpoint in my browser and browse through my database. And you can see that now I'm in my H2 console. So I've gone into my local host and my API and H2 console, and it's presented with me with this login dialog. So the password is blank, and I can just test connection to ensure that I can connect to the database. And if I make a connection, it will allow me to look at the tables and the data. So if I run this query, select star from make, you will see that these details are actually getting populated from my SQL file in the project. And that's what's getting presented when my endpoint gets called. So with this, I have covered my project setup, and I have also shown you how I use the Spring JPA to connect to an in-memory H2 database. So I hope you find this video useful, and thanks a lot for watching.